here we've got a variety trial. It's a slot trial, so many of the breeders will put varieties in here that are of interest to them. So some of them will not have reached candidate stage yet, some of them will be candidates, and we also put in a range of controls from the recommended list so that we can get a feel for how these varieties might behave in the longer run. We are in Duxford near Cambridge, so these trials were all netted from sowing up until early spring for KWS flea beetle protection, so hence we've got nice uniform plots to have a look at. So the first one we're looking at is LG Giaretti. So this is a Limagrain variety. As we can see, it's fairly tall. We've got limited data of all the candidates obviously at this stage, but this one not brilliant on light leaf spot, but good stem canker control, a typical LG variety with the extra little bit of height, but looks to be standing very well. This one's Aardvark, a good solid conventional, another Limagrain variety. We still got quite a few conventionals in the list. We did find that the conventionals struggled a little more last year, but some of them are looking actually quite good at the moment. So this one produces a nice solid 104 on the national figures. Not that good on light leaf spot, but again, good stem canker control. Doesn't have turnip yellows resistance. DKX Steel. So this is one for the north. It produces a good solid 100. It's got excellent stem canker resistance and good light leaf spot resistance. Light leaf spot being much more of a problem this year, so important traits to look out for. It's looking very good, and this one does have turnip yellows resistance. KWS Blazin, so another one for the north, slightly higher yielding than the DKX Steel with 102, but not as good disease resistance wise. It is looking nice and uniform. We're not seeing much in the way of disease in these ones at all, so be interesting to see how the two stack up yield wise later. Ambassador currently sitting level at the top of the list on 108 with national figures. Not classed as a short variety, but it is looking fairly short this year. The weather conditions, we have had the very dry spring and we've had a lot of frosts in the vicinity, and this one is definitely shorter than a lot of the other varieties we've got here by a good 100 mil. We'll be measuring it properly near a harvest anyway, but very strong. 108, as I said. We've got good stem canker and light leaf spot resistance, and generally a really good performing variety that is doing very well. Artemis, another good strong performing variety, 106, just slightly below Ambassador. Although it's supposedly slightly higher than Ambassador, this year it is definitely showing big height differences. Not as good disease wise, with sort of mediocre stem canker and light leaf spot control, but another one with turnip yellows resistance, which is good. But all in all, from where we've been growing it the last few years, another good strong performer from Limagrain. Aurelia, very strong all the way from south to north, so we get very similar yields in the north to the south. Pod shatter and turnip yellows, good solid disease resistance, and actually it's, you know, with 107 national score, it's a really good strong performer. LG Antigua Lee McGrain again, new one on the list this year. We don't have a lot of experience with this particular variety. Good solid yield score of 109. If I'm honest, it doesn't look quite as good as the Aurelia as we stand here. It will be interesting to see when we actually get to yields what we actually see. So this is an RAGT variety, Black Million. It's actually on the list of varieties that didn't get on the list last year. So we've now got a list of varieties that didn't quite make it. Good strong varieties, so this actually has a national figure of 105. So very unfortunate for it not to have got on the list, they'll feel. Slightly tall, doesn't have turnip yellows resistance, but still a variety worth having a look at. This one's a DSV variety, Dazzler, only recommended for the southern, more east-west regions. Good strong variety, got a score of 102. Pod shatter and turnip yellow resistance. V316OL, Bayer variety. Obviously this is a specialist whole variety. I think having these specialists in is great. It gives people a bit of versatility. Only just slightly lower yielding than some of the other ones we've looked at. It hasn't got the turnip yellows or pod shatter resistance, and disease wise it's not with the best, but it is a very important variety nevertheless. So here we've got an old favourite, Campus. We're still growing Campus, we still grow quite a lot of it. It suits us for a lot of the trial work we do. Conventional, which suits a lot of people for obvious reasons. Interestingly, we looked at all the RL yields from last year, so that's harvest 2020. Quite a few of the newer conventionals didn't perform up to what we would expect of their 4-year average, and certainly that was the case with the RL figures as well, except for Campus, which significantly out yielded its 4-year average. Why? We don't know. We need to beware the fact that the most southern trial used in the RLs last year was Spalding, because of the problems we had in the south with the variability in the trials and the problems with establishment. But yes, for some reason it did exceptionally well last year and is still used very fondly by many growers. Another DSV one, Voltage. So this is also on the list of varieties that didn't get put on the list. It must feel unfortunate. It performed very well. I think it was 107. Very good variety, turnip yellows, resistant, and like I say, well worth considering, even though it doesn't actually appear on the full list at this point in time. Another DSV one, CrossFit. CrossFit, turnip yellows, pod shatter and club root resistant. So we've now got several good club root varieties that we can choose from. We would suggest that they are not overly used as a club root resistant variety. We don't want the resistance to break down. So this is a candidate, so not actually on the list as such yet, but it's performed solidly. It's not the best light leaf spot wise by any way, but it's got very good stem canker resistance. So it's got its slot. We will see. Be interesting to see it, you know, how it performs when we actually get to yield it. Another candidate from Limagrain LG Auckland, fairly tall. We're familiar with that from Limagrain. Limited data because it is a candidate. It's a candidate for the east-west, but currently yielding last year at 115. So good potential. It's got good stem canker resistance and the usual, as we expect, turnip yellows and pod shatter resistance. So we've also got some Clearfield varieties. We like Clearfield varieties. It's another tool that we can use if it suits the way we want to farm, so helps out with companion cropping and also removing other brassicas that we don't actually want in our crops. DK Imprint CL. So this one's actually on the full list, slightly lower than some of the other varieties with a 95, but pretty much there or thereabouts. Good stem canker. We've got pod shatter resistance but not turnip yellows resistance in this one. We will have a look at a couple more of the candidates in a minute because the yields are coming up rapidly, so these varieties are not what they used to be. They are now up with the main lot, and as I say, another useful tool. This one's slightly shorter than the DK Imprint we looked at. Matrix CL, DSV variety. Again, it's a candidate and it's nationally doing 103 gross output. East-west it's up to 108. So as I said, they are sort of up there now with the best. Good stem canker resistance, turnip yellows and pod shatter. Another Clearfield, LG Constructor CL. So this is another candidate. So all of these candidates we do have limited data, but currently is scoring 105 on the east-west scores. Not the best disease resistance wise, but we do have turnip yellows and pod shatter.